In this video, I'm working with SQL Alchemy and Flask, and I am going to show the code where I am going to delete something from a database. So I have a very simple database, two entities, artists or painters and paintings, and there's a one-to-many relationship that an artist paints many paintings, but a painting is painted by one artist, making that assumption. And so I'm going to delete an artist, and I'm going to bring into my definition some cascade so that if I delete an artist, then all of that artist's paintings will go along with that deletion. Okay, so here we go. Here is the Let me make a little more room. Okay, so here is, I'm in the code to define the database entities in SQL Alchemy. And I have the painter and the table and an ID, last name, first name, country, birthday, death date, and there's a relationship to paintings. And I am putting here, you see the cascade, all delete. So I can put I'm going to put the cascade in two places. I'm going to put it in the relationship, and I'm going to put it in when I'm specifying the foreign key. Okay, and then here are paintings. Um, so ID, title, file name, painter ID, which is the foreign key, and we're adding an on delete cascade here. So we have, again, a cascade in the relationship. And there's a relationship of painter to paintings. And if I get rid of the painter, I'm going to get rid of the paintings. And also here, when I'm setting up the foreign key in the painting table, I specify that on delete, I'm going to cascade. I'm going to get rid of all the paintings of a painter if I get rid of the painter. Okay. Now, do I have the database? I do have the database. Okay. So here is the database, and I want to look at the paintings schema. And here is the foreign key on delete. So if I put Cascade only in the relationship, it will not show up in the actual database. So then here, if I were working with the database in SQLite 3, I could, if I hadn't put the Cascade in the foreign key part, if the Cascade was not in the database, then I could, over here, working with my SQLite 3 editor, I could get rid of painters and the paintings would still be there. But and that's what I did at first. But here, if I put it also here in the column, then it shows up in the database, so that the database, if I'm working with the database directly or if I'm working with the database through SQL Alchemy, it behaves in both cases the way I want, which is if I get rid of a painter, I get rid of that painter's paintings. Okay, so this is a route. So let me find the delete route. That's for adding an artist. Here is deleting an artist. I set up, let me run it and then I'll come back to the code. So here is I'm on the delete form. I made it the default got redirected to delete. So I come right to the delete form. I'm showing all of my artists so that you can sort of explore them. I forgot to say search, so I don't have a search bar here, but I do have a nice pagination and some sorting so I can find some artists, and then the actual deleting is down here. Now I've figured out who I want to delete. Let's get rid of Whistler. And then if I delete the artist, it says that it was successful and that that artist's painting should be gone. And I am going to come back to delete, and uh, Whistler is gone. And if I'm in the database and I look at paintings, not the schema now, but the paintings, uh, I used to have my Whistler was here with Whistler's mother and some nocturne or something. Let me get rid of Syrah, and so you've just seen Syrah. So if I get rid of Syrah, you will know that. So that was number two, George Syrah. Delete. Let's go back to delete. No Syrah, and back to the database. And I go from 5 to 12 because when I deleted Syrah, those were his paintings. Okay. Now let's just look a bit at the code in the route. Okay. So my first query here it's a query where I'm naming what I want. So I'm getting all the painter information, but I am explicitly naming the fields. So I think in previous times, I just said get painter and get everything. And then you pick up a little weird SQL alchemy property. But here I went with explicitly naming the fields. Then you don't get the SQL alchemy, but you also, if you query painter, you get, I think, a list of objects. Whereas if you query specific, ask for specific fields in the painter table, you get a list of named tuples. So you get a different type. When you change the type of query, you get a different data type out of it. And what I want is a list of dictionaries. That's what's sort of most convenient to send over and work with in Jinja on my pages. So, and this is to fill up that sort of grid.js table at the top to see, just conveniently search all my artists. So that's why I'm querying sort of all the artists. And this is me using ASDICT to sort of, I always use the term cast up. I'm casting up from named tuples to dictionaries. If I had objects, I would say I was casting down from objects to dictionaries. Printed it just to see if I was getting what I thought I was getting. Grid.js wants a set of columns and data, which are the sort of the table, the headers, basically, which are, in the case of the dictionary, the keys. So I'm going to just one of the items, the first dictionary, and getting all of its keys. And then for the second one, I'm looping through all the records and getting their values and making sort of a list of lists. And I send that over to make my grid.js table that you saw at the top. I also have a select where I get to select an artist. That's my dropdown. And so I did not show that form. Here is my delete form. There's a submit button and a select. That grid.js table at the top you're not interacting with it. It's not an input. So I can put it on the page, but I don't need to put it here it's not part of the form. Okay. So there we go. So I have now back to routes. Okay. So this is me preparing the choices. Again, I'm querying it here. So in the form, I just left the choices blank. I'm querying it here because I come back to this page, I delete somebody, I come back to this page, I delete somebody, I come back. I also have some insert. If I insert somebody, I want them in the list. So I'm grabbing the list just before I sort of like as I go to the route, or just before I route, I will get my choices. So this is just the list of tuples. So I'm using a list comprehension to get it in the form. And you see here the parenthesis, it wants a list of tuples. So I'm turning my, I made it a list of dictionaries with all the information about my artists, but now I'm pulling out specifically the first name, last name, and the ID. I'll use the ID as the value in my dropdown and show the first name and the last name to my user. And here I'm getting my form, my delete form. So importing it and then instantiating it, setting up the choices, and then here I am responding to a submission. Down here, the return is if this is me going to the page originally with the columns and the data to set up the grid.js table. But if I've successfully, if I'm responding, if the user put in something and submitted that, and I'm responding to that, then I figure out what artist I want to delete. So I'm querying the painters and finding in my drop-down select, I had as the value the ID. And so I'm getting that result artist, I'm getting that ID, I'm making sure I cast it as an int. There are other ways to do that, but that's what I'm used to doing. And I get the painter with that ID. And then I am just getting some information. Before I delete them, I'm getting their information so I can say which artist I deleted. Then I am deleting it, then I'm committing that delete, and I'm going to my handler. My form is easy enough. Where's my delete form? Here I'm setting up my grid.js table. I already have the columns and data sort of structured, and I don't want it Jinja and HTML messing with it, so I say safe. And here's my form. I have my CSRF token. I have the form with the artist, so that is my dropdown. I have my submit button. The handler, the delete handler, just says the painter with this ID and this artist information was deleted, and because of the cascade, all the paintings. So that's, I think I showed you all the relevant parts. That's what I wanted to show you. I added Cascade. I'm deleting an artist. And the artist had a relationship to, I'm deleting a painter, and that painter had a relationship to paintings. And so I wanted to, and I'm deleting an painter. So if I deleted the painter, I wanted to delete the paintings. So I added in my define, I added a cascade to delete in both the relationship, which took care of it in SQL Alchemy, but not in the database. But I also added it to the foreign key definition of the paintings table, and that took care of it over in the database. And what else? And then I set up all of the form to get the artists. I am getting the artist choices for the artist name sort of on the fly when we're being routed to that particular page. Okay, I think that's all I wanted to show you on this one. Thanks for your attention.